Hi, welcome to the Silver Lining Podcast with Luke and Monica.
Episode 1 official. So the first one, I did the research. And when I say I did the research, what I really mean to say is, as I was figuring out how to upload the podcast, it told me that this was the trailer episode. And so not this last one that you.
The last one.
Yeah. So that was our trailer episode. We didn't use the word trailer. So yeah, this is episode 1. We're going to call it Welcome to Holland because we've got something that we'll talk about with that. Before we get going, though, for those of you watching on YouTube, what do we have here?
It's an hourglass.
Well, we hope it's an hourglass. It might be a 20-minute glass, but
I think it's going to be longer than that.
So we're starting it because it says on it, it's Hobby Lobby. Monica's second favorite store, second favorite to Dollar Tree. What's that? It said don't use this as like a timekeeping device because it's for display only. But
it has sand in it.
But it has sand in it, and it's going to take a long time for it to go from full on one side to empty. So we figured we'd time it, and that's what I'm doing now. So I've started our official stopwatch because we actually want to know how long the episodes are and have a way to kind of gauge it.
For when he is done talking.
Yeah, we need a shorter one, like a turn. You know those chest things, it's like you move and you hit the timer for chest. That's what we need, is like just the chest timer. So I go, and then you can like tap that, and
Well, we thought about getting a 2-minute timer, and then when he's reached his 2 minutes, he's done.
Yeah, fantastic. Anyway, so welcome back, and we will be again talking about different things. Today's not going to be necessarily our story or the story, as we'll get into that and have a lot of fun with that. But we are going to talk about an impactful illustration that Monica brought home.
I don't remember when that was. It was last year sometime.
It was a ladies' conference.
Ladies' conference.
I want to say it was in the spring, though.
It could have been.
Yeah. And so Monica went to a ladies' conference. But before we talk about the illustration, which you have to hang out, if you don't watch the whole thing, at least wait until we read this other thing that somebody else produced, because it's really, really good.
It's very good. It's very impactful.
Yeah. So, but Monica had been in a state just kind of, she'd been
mentally overwhelmed, I guess, by having 4 kids.
You want to embellish on that at all? Because there's more. Really, she has 5, because I'm here too. Really, so yeah.
I don't know. I was just I wouldn't really say necessarily bad spot, just a challenging spot. And then when I went to this ladies' conference, they read this poem called Welcome to Holland, and it was mind-blowing good to me.
Yeah.
We decided to look about it, and we decided to include it on this because it was really impactful.
Yeah, and I think that like during that time, I'll say this, we don't always do everything that's on the calendar between ladies' conferences and all the stuff that's out there, because there's just a lot of things that you can get involved with. And when you have 4 kids, you're already involved in a lot. And the more you choose outside of the family, you're choosing things that are, it's not that they're not good, but sometimes they do break apart what could be family time. And this is one of those conferences where it's kind of a last minute thing. It was
they had like 2 tickets left.
It was meant to be.
It was
meant to be, and it was like an overnight thing, and she took a coworker there, and so it really was a really cool opportunity for her. And I really believe that was God had worked out the details, because there was 2 available tickets. Did you end up paying for those?
No, it was actually free. It was funny because someone at church was selling the tickets, and then when they found out it was me, they were like, "Oh, you don't have to pay." So it was a blessing.
And I don't think, like, prior to her, the conversation was like, "Hey, should I go? I don't know if I want to go. I'm going to go." And so that was pretty awesome. I think that husbands should be very supportive of their wives going out and doing things outside of the family and getting away. And I'm not saying run away and don't come back. I'm saying leave and get refreshment and hang out with ladies and have a good time. I think that's great. And so, she left. I actually didn't know that she was necessarily in a place. So she was kind of holding it in, stifling it in. And obviously, and you think about the life that Monica walked into. I've got my 4 kids, and that's a lot. Me is a lot, and then the 4 kids are a lot, and then really we have 3 bad boys, and so that'll be a joke. We don't think our kids are bad, but they're human.
Joke.
Yeah. So they're a lot of fun, and we'll talk about all the good stuff. But during this time, it was just everything was a little bit draining. You think about the amount of laundry, and kudos to my mother-in-law, Miss Tina, who's been in my life several times to help us catch up on laundry prior to Alicia passing and Monica coming into play. We just live in mountains of laundry. And so like in our entryway to our house, there's a sign that says, I moved mountains, and then the subprint says of laundry. And so I think between laundry and trying to keep the house clean.
$4 Hobby Lobby.
Yes.
That's how much my sign was. This was.
Yes. Hobby Lobby again. The deals. It might look fancy and expensive. I promise you it was not. And so I didn't really even realize that she was in I don't want to say a place of struggle, but just dealing with the burden and the weight of just the responsibility of being a stepmom.
Getting used to a new life.
Getting used to a new life, but also being a stepmom, we're dealing with not just 5 people, but also 5 hearts. And all of them, we're all very sensitive people here, except for Monica. Different conversation.
We don't say that word.
Sensy. And so she went to the conference and came back and came back very just encouraged and just very different. It wasn't like she had a bad attitude before, but she left and came back very inspired and encouraged and just spiritually fed. Refreshed. Yeah, it's a good word. It's a good word. So do you want me to read it now? So we know what it is. Okay. So I'm gonna say this. This is written from the perspective, and I'll give the name in a minute. I gotta look it up. I have it in front of me. I have to look at it and read the name of who actually produced this. I think they're a public speaker. I actually don't know anything about them, but they wrote from the perspective of when you have a special needs child. So they're writing it from the perspective of what it's like to, you're going to have a baby and then having a special needs baby, which I think is a great conversation, not necessarily something that we're going to talk a lot about because this isn't a parenting or a marriage podcast, but this is really well written and very encouraging, and we'll refer to this many times, but let me get this.
Well, when I heard it, to be honest, I didn't even realize, they said it was about a special needs mom writing or special, whatever. Anyway, but I didn't really take it that way. Like when you read it, it was just, it just so applied to me and where I was at the time. Still am technically. Anyway.
Yeah. And I think it's a, you go to these things that they're encouraging, just like church on Sunday morning or something motivational. It's not necessarily designed to last. The only thing that's going to last is Jesus. So you got to keep getting more of this. But it's written by Emily Perl Kingsley in 1987, and it's called "Welcome to Holland." And I'm going to read the full thing, but I want you to look at it or hear it from the perspective of no matter where you're at, potentially you're in a place where your Holland is different than what you expected. Your place you're at right now is different than what you would have chosen. It's not the whatever you would have chosen. It's not the life you would have chosen. It's not the marriage or the situation or whatever it is. And I don't mean that you should be looking to jump out of your marriage. That's not what I meant to say there. But the concept of no matter where you're at, whether you're doing a bunch of laundry because you have a bunch of kids and it's just a lot of work and you're a mom who's stuck at home. I don't know where you're at, but wherever you're at, sometimes we look at where we're at and it's just not what we would have wanted. But we'll read it here. Let me stop talking here. By Emily Perl Kingsley. I'm often asked to describe the experience of raising a child with a disability and to try to help people who have not shared that unique experience to understand it, to imagine how it would feel. It's like this. When you're going to have a baby, it's like planning a fabulous vacation trip to Italy. You buy a bunch of guidebooks and make wonderful plans, the Colosseum, the Michelangelo David, the gondolas in Venice, and you may learn some handy phrases in Italian. It's all very exciting. After months of eager anticipation, the day finally arrives. You pack your bags and off you go. Several hours later, the plane lands. The stewardess comes in and says, "Welcome to Holland." Holland? What do you mean, Holland? I signed up for Italy. I'm supposed to be in Italy. All my life, I've dreamed of going to Italy. But there's been a change in the flight plan. They've landed in Holland, and you're there to stay. The important thing is that they haven't taken you to a horrible, disgusting, filthy place full of pestilence, famine, and disease. It's just a different place. So you must go out and buy new guidebooks, and you must learn a whole new language, and you're going to meet a whole new group of people that you would have never met. It's just a different place. It's slower paced than Italy, less flashy than Italy, but after you've been there for a while and you catch your breath and look around and you begin to notice that Holland has windmills, and Holland has tulips, and Holland even has Rembrandts, and everyone you know is busy coming and going from Italy, and they're all bragging about what a wonderful time they had there, and that for the rest of your life you'll say, yes, that's where I was supposed to go. That's what I had planned. And the pain of that will never, ever, ever, ever go away, because the loss of that dream is a very significant loss. But If you spend your life mourning the fact that you didn't go to Italy, you may never be able to enjoy the very, very special, lovely things about Holland. When we first read this, I thought, this was one of those things. I think I read it on my Men After God podcast. I mentioned it there. I think I used it as a sermon illustration a couple times in preaching opportunities in our community group. We read it because
Yes, we did.
It was one of those things that just, it hit home, and she brought it to me, and I was like, wow, that is so good. Because I think that, at the time, and I don't think you ever get over processing. I think that it even emphasizes you're always going to grieve the loss of that thing that you thought was the most important thing, your Italy. And
dream you had. I guess one of the things I thought of too when I heard that was like, because I'm divorced, and when I got married the first time, I was expecting to be married to the same person forever, and I wasn't. And so just like the loss of that, just there was something about that also too that kind of tied in there for me.
yeah, I mean, for all of us. So, and for me, it was really the most impactful thing in my life up to that time, in a heavy way. And obviously there's more, but the loss of Alicia was not planned. I remember the day that Alicia passed away. I remember being at the hospital that day and coming home, knowing very well what was going on. So obviously she had passed away in the morning. We tried to resuscitate her, and called 911, for a different time. But I remember going to the hospital and seeing her there in the ER, and them giving me a diabetic ketoacidosis. I'd never heard of that. I had no idea what that meant. That basically they had a slight pulse, and they'd put her on a machine to keep her heart going or whatever. But the messaging there was, she probably is not actually alive, and we're going to do testing. And there was a very clear messaging that she, even if she was coming home, she wasn't coming home the same, but the odds of her coming home at all were very small percentage. And so we have people all over the nation praying, and churches praying, and I had a close pastoral staff had been there, and I'd kind of made an excuse to go home and check on the dogs. My sister Grace had taken the kids, and so I came home and was processing. I was putting things away, and the chair had been knocked over in the bedroom, and the emergency personnel had moved stuff around. We had a hope chest. We'd moved that aside and put Alicia's body on the floor, and they hooked her to the machine to try to get her heart going again. So the room was kind of in disarray, and I was trying to pick that back up and really just process what had happened and what was about to happen, without any understanding, and really with very minimal perspective of the sovereignty of God in that moment. And I remember just asking God, why? Like, why'd you move us to Texas? Why, are we supposed to go home? Where is home? Am I Naomi? And my wife has just died, and now I got to go. And I'm like, where is home? Is home Prineville? Is home in Washington? Like, where's home? And I remember God in the Holy Spirit just impressing upon my heart to just stop looking for purpose and reason, and just start looking for Him. And I think when Monica brought this Welcome to Holland story illustration home, it really affected me as well, because I was like, man, I've been so busy looking for what I've missed. And obviously there's a happy, because I have Monica in my life, but looking at this perspective of, wait, there's a lot of tulips and windmills and Rembrandts in our life. And it's not that there's not hard and mourning and grieving the loss of Alicia, because that was very, very real and still is very real. But in the process of mourning the loss of Alicia and missing her and having Monica, and the beauty of the life that we live and the joy that we have, not because life is perfect or easy, but because God is good. When she brought this home, it was just like a refresher on, hey, welcome to Holland. And Holland is not Italy, but Holland is beautiful. My timer's, I got my timer, I got 5 minutes.
Your timer, because you can focus on the bad, or you can focus on the good.
And focusing on the good, it's not, sometimes when we're looking at perspective, there's this concept that we need to be Pollyanna and just, play the glad game all the time. And some people can do that, and that's fine. I'm probably one of those people that I like to look at the positive. And looking at the positive does not mean there's no negative. It just means the perspective is, I'm going to look at it through the lens of a God who loves me versus the demise of, oh me, oh my, poor me, please have pity on me. Please don't have pity on me. I am the luckiest man I know. I'm the most blessed person I know. As much as we've been through some things that have been hard, God has shown himself so strong and so good and so kind through the individuals that have loved on us and brought us to a place where I don't like to lean on people, but there was a season of my life where I had to lean, and that was good for me. And even at this place, I still get to not show up put together. I've got a lot of hurt and a lot of life, right? So as we're looking at this, just the concept of we don't know what Holland you're in, but we know it's not your Italy. And we want to hear about that. So obviously, if you want to reach out to us, we're getting our Facebook page set up and YouTube channel and stuff like that. But if you know us, please reach out. We want to be an encouragement to you. But also, as we keep on talking about this, um, what was your primary, what was the primary thing? Like, because you went to the conference kind of like, okay, I'm going to go. But then you left the conference with a whole different perspective and mindset when you came home. There was just a little bit lighthearted or lighter load, I guess.
Yeah, like I said, just choosing to see, like, sometimes the kids are overwhelming because there's 4 of them, and there's a
Sometimes
lot of
there's less with
laundry,
that.
a lot of dishes, and a lot of messes, and just choosing to see that there are windmills and tulips, and all of it's not bad. Some of it's overwhelming, but it's not all bad. There is good in the chaos.
Yeah, and I think even watching the kids, I guess that's one of the joys that I get is I know that Alicia's in heaven, and I don't know how heaven works exactly, but I just have an inkling that when Monica gets to heaven, we get this idea of how when people are gone, they're kind of the same as when they were here. And to be honest, Alicia's not the same as when she was here. And so I know when Monica gets to heaven, I can't imagine, and I don't know what the interaction will be, but I can't imagine what a beautiful meeting, not even a reunion, what a beautiful meeting it will be between Alicia and Monica. Because while there is overwhelm and all this stuff, watching the kids interact with Monica and kind of come out of their shell, and they get to talk to Monica about Alicia. Monica never met
Yeah.
Alicia. There was never a point when there was any interaction between them. The first time.
I didn't even know about her until the Sunday that she was in the hospital and
Yeah,
that
so
they asked
past
for prayer.
yeah, so and that's ultimately, obviously, we'll tell that story later on of how we came to be. But watching the kids be able to talk to someone about someone that the kids love dearly, miss dearly, have a lot of memories with Alicia, and talk about their mommy and that's mommy is mommy Alicia, and now it's mom Alicia. That's the kind of difference between Monica, because obviously as life has blended together, they're starting to be very comfortable calling Monica mom or Momica for some of them sometimes. And so being able to watch the interaction and watch them in their healing journey with Monica, there are a lot of tulips and Rembrandts, if you would, whether it be watching Jacqueline come out of her shell and, do a Mother's Day gift for Monica that value is probably $3.99 of a canvas and a painting,
Yeah.
but personally, that's a tulip, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that's what I'd like to talk about today. I know we've been talking about the concept, like, hey, what are the tulips? And there's a lot of weeds and mucks and I don't know what other bad things are in Holland, but there's some cobblestone muddy streets in Holland too. And there's probably children in Holland too. So but I want to talk about some of the tulips and Rembrandts of what God has done in our lives, in obviously since your divorce, right? And since your cancer and all that, and then us since Alicia's passing away and a lot of what we were dealing with prior to her passing away. I just want to focus for just a minute with our story and talk about, and this is unprompted. We don't have a list. We didn't, chat. This is not sponsored by Chat GTP. This is just our hearts. What are those things? What are the tulips? What are the Rembrandts of little things that are just these are things you hold on to. Give me memories of the kids. Obviously, we went out early with her parents and we're talking about different things as well.
Of now.
of now, the life we live now. What are the tulips and things of the life we live now, even though it's not our Italy per se?
Well, we could talk about Lance. Lance went from not wanting hugs or kisses or touches at all when we first got together, and now he's like kissing us goodnight and giving us hugs and random hugs. That's kind of a tulip because that didn't happen at first.
And for context, Lance, when a baby, was a very snuggly child. Lance is autistic, very high functioning, but he's on the spectrum, and is a very, if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. If you understand, if you don't know, then get out and about. There's you meet some awesome people. Two of my sons, Lance and Luke Lyle, are on the spectrum, and they're very
total opposite
in a lot of ways, in different conversation. But when Monica first came into our lives, Lance was happy to interact or whatever, but that interaction was at a distance. Even for me, for many years, Lance he's not a snuggle bug. Like he used to, I had to rock him to sleep every night. And then there was a certain point where Lance he doesn't want to be touched. So he would snuggle Alicia, stuff like that. But be honest, I'm not the person you snuggle with.
You're not his person.
I'm not his person.
And you're still not. I am now.
No, I am not. No, I am not.
Graham. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
Bobby.
Oh, yeah, no.
Hard to beat those guys.
Yeah, it is. And so, and he'll hug certain people, Nana and Papa's and different things. Like there's a few people on this list that he allows that. But to be honest, I'm not on the list. I don't get a lot of physical interaction with Lance. And so when Monica came into our lives, like Luke, Lyle, and Logan were like all over her. Like if she sat on the couch, like there's no room for me,
Good
right?
luck.
I'm even for months after we were married, every time she sat on the couch, it's like both sides of her were taken, and Lance would be on the other side of the couch doing his own thing, and he'd interact and do stuff. But in the last several months, they're just this little person came out of a shell, and now at first I think he wanted to be chased. And then I think he realized that Monica's not a chaser. Like she's not like you. If you want to interact, if not,
because he used to be like teasing, like he'd pretend he was gonna hug you, or he'd pretend he would kiss you, and I'm like, I'm not playing these games.
Yeah, and then the other thing is this, like then she'd pretend to kiss him, and he'd pretend to be dead, like he'd just fall over dead, and so it was just like a funny game. And then suddenly this little kid, Lance is 12, so we're talking about this teenager almost. Who really struggled with Alicia passing, because with where he was at, for him to be able to convey how he was feeling or even know what he was feeling, it's just different. I don't know how to explain that. Logan would talk about the passing of Alicia and Mommy, and Lyle would talk about Mommy and some of the memories he had, and how he would, like we have conversations like, what would you do if you had another day with Mommy? What would you do? And he'd like, go to Starbucks, you eat egg bites, so different things. Like they have conversations, right? But Lance is a little bit more of a recluse when it comes to that. And so watching him come out of his shell, and even I think one of our tulip moments, one of mine is, I don't know where I was at. I might have been out. I might have been out with Pastor, but you had a conversation where you were getting the kids to bed and just saying good night.
Yeah, I think you were out with Pastor.
Yeah, and they started talking, and we've had conversations about how Alicia passed away and why she passed away. To the understanding they can. There's obviously a lot of medical details there, but then they started having a conversation, a little bit of confusion. They know some, but then they kind of, everybody adapts on a story, and they started sharing with Monica, like,
yeah, just different details that they remembered. It was just random stuff. I think Logan was like, oh, she passed away from cancer, and Lance was like, no, she didn't. And it was just like they were trying to get their stories straight,
right? But even to have that place where they're able to talk about this with someone who in their mind doesn't know, because Monica wasn't there till months later. And so when they get to talk about stories, but there's just little tulips like that for a dad and a husband, to watch that bond happen, to watch Lance, who at one time was pretending to be dead every time Monica kissed him or hugged him or did anything with him, to now, coming up and giving her side kisses or back kisses, and he'll just kind of walk up just randomly and very affectionately, give her a kiss on the cheek, which is a big deal for him because that's just not his MO, right? So we say this, it's not that Lance is the favorite, but there's times during the week when he is the favorite, just based on that kind of special interaction, right? I think one of my tulips, one of my Rembrandts actually, is probably the relationship that the kids have with Monica's parents. So Monica comes into our lives, and we, obviously the kids fell in love with her right away, and there was a lot of positive interaction, and it was a little bit slower for Jack to figure out. And that, again, a different podcast, we'll talk about this, but just dealing with, the boys were ready. Logan was very much, after we started talking and connecting, he came to me and was like, hey, Miss Monica? I'm like, yeah, I know Miss Monica, He's like, that she's not married, right? And I was like, yeah, I know. Oh, that she doesn't have a husband, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, she doesn't have a husband. And this is just Logan as a 9-year-old. He's like, well, she could just come live with us, right? And obviously we were pretty serious, but we're trying to just make sure the kids were ready. And
it was a good thing that we were serious pretty quickly, or they would have probably scared me off because they were serious.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously, again, we'll get to that story, but there was a good thing that God had already made some things pretty clear to us through biblical counsel and just through what God is doing in our own hearts. But it was pretty beautiful to watch the kids. But then Poppy and Gram, so her parents, who we call Poppy and Gram, to watch them and the interaction. I've got special needs kids, and I have 4 kids, and I'm the guy that just lost his wife. There's a lot of me that's really insecure about, and ignore the side of the concept of, hey, I just lost my wife within the last 6 months, and this is abnormal. And you say, man, that's crazy. You're a horrible person. Different conversation, probably true, but not because of that. And so there's just this insecurity. And then to watch them from the first interaction, from the first time at a dinner table, here comes Lance, sits down next to Gram, and they became best buds. And even to this day, like, wow, while Poppy's best buds with all the kids and loves them all, Lance had just adopted Gram, and Gram adopted Lance in just a big way. And for a long time, long before he hugged Monica or spent any time with her in like giving hugs or physical attention, right? Or even for me, I barely get acknowledgement even now. I got a kiss the other night, and that was like the first kiss I've had from Lance since he was unable to prevent him kissing him when he was 2, right? But the concept is that Gram gets hugs, deep hugs, like real heartfelt hugs.
Yep.
Every time. And that, to me, that, and just the fact of how much they love the kids. And obviously we're grateful for all grandparents, with Alicia's parents taking the kids for the summer. That's been very helpful to us. We needed to get, our marriage. We're married with 4 kids, like getting that. There's just some different windmills and tulips and we could go for hours. We're not going to, because the time we've got a couple minutes left. So we're at 27 minutes, and we're about. So
I'm guessing it's 30 minutes.
Yeah. Let's see.
It looks
close. So, we'll see. But I think the concept is that when you're in life, no matter where you're at, I believe that God has given us the ability to find a place and something to be grateful for. And I know, and sometimes it's harder. Sometimes there's more physical pain, more mental pain, more emotional pain. Yep. And sometimes it's much more difficult in the season that you're in. But I will say this: it's a season.
This too shall pass.
This too shall pass, and it may pass like a kidney stone, but it'll pass, right? But just that perspective of, hey, what can I look for? Some tulips here, and it might just be that, but it might be windmills, and it might be Rembrandts, and it might be the people you meet, and there's just a lot more there that I believe we can look at and thank God for. And I do believe that, I do know that you can't, with gratitude, you can't be ungrateful and grateful at the same time. You're either grateful or you're ungrateful. You can't be both. And choosing gratitude and just that perspective, I think, is one of the most beautiful things you can do as an individual in a time where it doesn't make sense for you to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Gratitude journal.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about some practical things.
That was something that really helped me after my divorce, to focus on things that I was grateful and thankful for, because that was not easy to do when you're in grief and walking through the loss of what you thought would be forever, or till death do you part, and it wasn't. So finding things that you can be grateful for really helped me.
Yeah, so gratitude.
Writing them down.
And you might write them down differently. Our timer's running out. This is really important to us. 30 minutes and 33 seconds. 32 seconds. Okay. Time's up. We're out. No, just kidding. But the ability for you to take time to do something, I believe, like, I don't like to write in journals. I don't really love my handwriting.
I do. I think it's great.
Yeah, she loves her handwriting.
Looks like a love letter.
Just kidding. She
likes old-fashioned love letter.
She's talking about my handwriting and any of my siblings or
not
my
mine.
parents.
Yours.
Yeah. I was making a joke, but
haha.
If my siblings and parents are watching this, please ignore. She doesn't know what good handwriting is, so don't show her yours. I have doctor's handwriting, and so.
Oh, I thought of something else.
Oh yes.
Serving, finding somewhere in your church. If you're not serving, you're having a serving period. Especially if you're walking through a hard time, it takes the focus off of what you're going through and not puts it on, but it changes your focus to focus on others. There we go.
Yeah.
That really helps.
Also. Yeah, and I think we're going to do a whole episode on, what to do when you're going through it. How do you grow through what you go through? Kind of an episode on different things. Monica sings in the choir. I didn't sing in the choir going through my grief journey, and there are different seasons of that. But I stood, but I found a place to serve that gave me an opportunity where it made sense.
Put you right in my path.
Yeah, well, I being in the way, the Lord led me. So, and so I would say that there are some tangible things that you can do in the midst of your Holland, your grief, your non-Italy, that will glorify God and will give you opportunities to change your perspective, change your focus potentially. And I think that there's a concept of, well, I'm not recommending you bury your grief or you stifle it or you ignore it. You got to process your grief, and grief needs a witness. I do believe journaling in a positive way of journaling what you're feeling, what you're going through is valuable. I believe that as long as it potentially starts or ends or both with what are you grateful for? For me in my grief journey, and I understand everybody grieves differently, the loss of a loved one. So this is just my perspective from what I was feeling and what I got to experience with the love and grace of Jesus and the support that I had. Your story's different, so just take it in stride. For me, the theme of my grief, if you would, as I was processing it and writing poems and just awake a lot of hours, crying tears and processing was always grief and gratitude. They could go together. I can absolutely be grateful for the love and the time that I had with Alicia while grieving her absence without it being a pity party. And I think you need to grieve. And so for some of you, you've been dealing with pain, you've been dealing with whatever it is, whether it be divorce, whether it be loss of a loved one, loss of a child. Some of you have had individuals who have left you, and it's not a divorce situation, it's a family situation. Some of you have been potentially lied about in different ways, and it has severed relationships, and there's grief there. You need to process that grief, but I believe you can do it with gratitude. And it doesn't mean that that relationship ever comes back. That's not what we're saying. But grief needs a witness. And so being able to journal it out, to sing it out, to write it out, to talk it out, all that's very, very valuable. But I do believe that here's the concept, and we'll wrap this up. Monica, you remember when you were a kid? You ever remember when you were like crying at the dinner table and how impossible it is to eat while you're crying? Do you ever experience that?
Oh yeah. I can, as soon as you said that, I can think about, and not even as a child, but that happened too. But the instance
yesterday,
I think of is when after I had my colonoscopy and they knew that I was sick, that evening we sat down to eat, and I was living with my parents at the time, and I just broke down and started bawling, and yeah, I couldn't eat.
Yeah. And I remember as a kid, and there's a point to this, like, it's really difficult to receive when you're crying. So hear me out here. When you're in a place where you're pouring out, you need to pour it out. And so I'm not saying you can't receive, but the concept is I can't be ungrateful, not that crying is ungrateful, and be receiving at the same time. You got to do one or the other. So being able to cry it out, and just, it's okay to cry. I think you should cry. I think if you're avoiding crying, you probably should go see a therapist and get to the point you need to cry some things out. But in the process of it, the concept of when I was a child, many times I would be dealing with something where I didn't like what I was being given or served, and so I was throwing a fit over what I'd been served, I was crying about it, and I didn't want to eat what had been served. And so it was like this pity party thing. And you ever seen a child where they're trying to chew and like they got food in their mouth and they cannot chew and swallow while they're crying? You can't, right? It's not, I dare you to try, but don't send me the video because I want to see it, right? But all that to say, cry it out where you need to cry it out, but then stop, eat your food, be grateful for what you got. And don't be afraid to separate those two, because sometimes that's two things. I need to cry it out. And you do. No, I'm not saying don't eat while you're crying in life. Like he's like, I've just lost my wife. I'm just having a hard time. Cry it out, but be eating. Watch your diet. But just be mindful. It's very difficult for you to be grateful and be whining at the same time. And there's a difference between whining and processing what you're going through. Some of you are so turned off by whining. You're so like just bothered by people whining that you won't take time to yourself for you to grieve appropriately because you don't want to complain. You're not complaining when you're talking about what you're going through. I talk to individuals all the time that are going through really tremendously difficult times. You need to talk it out, and you need to find someone who will listen to you, that will be understanding and sit with you in your tears. A mud puddle friend is what I call them. When your friend is in a mud puddle, or when you're in a mud puddle, I don't need someone to come pull me out of the mud puddle. I need someone to come sit with me in the mud puddle until I'm done. And when I'm done, we'll get down, we'll get up, walk out, we'll brush off. But you need to find that mud puddle friend. And for some of you, the best way for you to start healing is for you to be that mud puddle friend. Not because it feels good or it's easy, but because you understand what it's like to be in a mud puddle. And you can go and you can spot it when someone's in a mud puddle, even when they don't want you to know they're in a mud puddle. And you don't need to go pull them off and get a towel and drive it. No, you need to go sit with them. They might want to talk. They might not want to talk. But your presence means the world to them, and is very, very healing for you to be a part of other people's grief, not because you're having a trauma bonding commisery experience, but just because that opportunity for you to just love on someone is very healing for you, even in the midst of your own mud puddle.
And it does bond you.
And it does.
Even if you're not trying to trauma bond. I have several trauma bonding friends, not because I was trying to, just because they were there and they were,
and trauma bonding isn't a bad thing. I think there's, be mindful. It's a it's not a bad thing. It's a real thing. Yeah, no, it's one of those things. When you go through the fire with someone, it takes a lot to sever those relationships. And by the way, I'm not saying they can't be severed, because I've been in the situation where I've had several relationships with people that went through the fire with me, they sat in the mud puddle with me, and due to decisions either on my part or their part, the relationship has been severed for the time. And not that it can't be reconciled, but it took some intentional behavior to sever that. But I've got other folks that I didn't even know when Alicia passed away. And yet we are very, very, very close friends now, and it would take a lot to break the bond. And I could name a dozen of individuals that were just there during my mud puddle that I could call right now, and they'd be here if I needed them, and they could call me right now, and without hesitation, I'd be wherever I need to be for them, because of that healing, bonding, the realness of going through something together and growing through it together, even though they hadn't lost someone necessarily. They'd been there for me, and we'd been there for each other in different things. For the sake of time and names that I could say that you wouldn't even know, I'm not going to say that, but I think that if any of you are listening, you know who you are, and I know who you are, and that's not a threat. So anyway, but any last words before we wrap up? We are going to wrap up this. Welcome to Holland. Welcome to our podcast journey as we figure out all these details. But Monica,
timer's over.
It was over like 10 minutes ago. That's why I stopped. I stopped the clock. Now. Yeah. Yes, it's 4.
I think we needed a bigger timer.
Yeah. We're going to get an hour one in no time, plus that 2-minute one to go back and forth. I really think that test one was just like answer and fling it back and just like
fling it.
Yeah. So anyway, hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this. Obviously, reach out if there's a way that you can reach out. For one, we'll figure out some details there, but ultimately would love to connect with you. Obviously, pray with you through your Holland experience, and just also be a part of the experience, because while it's not Italy, your Holland is beautiful because God is good. And while everything you've gone through isn't necessarily good, God can use it for good. he was really good at redeeming stories, and that's what we're here to talk about. So thanks for being a part of the Silver Lining with Luke and Monica.